Hi, everyone, and welcome to Autism Hope Library. I am really, really excited. I've known this guy for, goodness, I think almost 14 plus years, and he is just a wealth of knowledge. So welcome, Dr. Devin Houston. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, it's a pleasure anytime, Kristen.
Well, I mean, I know that you founded Houston Enzymes, and I feel like you've been around with enzymes before enzymes were real popular.
Yeah, I was enzymes before enzymes were cool. So,
Which makes you even cooler. So today we're going to be talking about, I think, a really important topic, how to get started with enzymes, choosing dosing, and judging the results. So the first question I have that I know many families have is, how do I figure out which enzyme product to use?
yeah, people are sort of like snowflakes. No two people are the same, especially when it comes to their diet and their GI conditions. So, everybody eats different foods, different cultures have different foods, different preferences. And also our bodies are different. So the bacteria we have in our stomach or I mean, in our intestinal tract is going to be different. It's going to differ from person to person. Um, so basically what a customer or consumer should look for is just try to get an idea of what type of foods are bothersome. Or you might have outright allergies, or maybe you just have an intolerance. Something you eat just doesn't sit well with you, or just causes a rumbly stomach, or a lot of gas or bloating, and maybe constipation or loose stools. So you kind of judge which enzyme you want based on what you want to achieve, or what food you want to address. For example, if you were have an issue with grains, let's say wheat or barley, you might consider something that will address the particular protein in wheat, which is the main one is gluten. So knowing that that's a protein, you want to take an enzyme that has a lot of protease activity. Proteases are those enzymes that break down food proteins. So it helps if you have a little bit of a scientific background, but if you don't, that's okay, because you should develop a good relationship with an enzyme company, someone that, or some company that has someone that can talk to you and just kind of guide you through it without having to know all the scientific data and the complexities behind it. But basically, match enzymes to foods. Lactose intolerance. Lactose is in milk. So you want to take an enzyme called lactase that specifically works on that particular compound. So there's many different enzyme companies and many different enzyme products. So it's basically up to the consumer and the person they deal with in that company to kind of guide them and help them figure out what's going on.
What about for a kiddo? Like, I'm thinking about my son. I remember when I first started enzymes, I don't know what he's intolerant to. I don't know how he feels. He's not talking to me right now. So, like, what am I supposed to do about that? How do I know where to start?
Well, you can look for behaviors, or when they're real little, you can check out their bowel movements. So the stools are the end product of digestive processes. So are you seeing bits of food in the poop? Are they floating on top rather than sinking to the bottom of the bowl? Do you see a layer of like an oil slick on top of the water? That's an indication that they're not breaking down fats, and that may be bothersome as well. But type of behaviors, if you look for, especially for nonverbal kids, you look at them in profile. Is their stomach protruding? Are they very emotional? Are they crying a lot? Or do you find that they are taking their body and pushing their stomach on the arm of a sofa or chair? That's all signs that they're having some kind of discomfort that they're trying to alleviate. So maybe they're trying to push on the stomach, put pressure on there to try to get the gas bubbles out. So that's one thing. So, well, maybe my kid's dealing with a lot of gassiness, and if flatulence is a problem, which kids are not used to holding it, so they'll let you know. If the stools are runny or loose, that's an indication that maybe there's the carbs aren't being broken down enough, and that the bacteria in the gut are just not breaking down the food, or they're breaking it down, or they're just eating it rather than breaking it down, and the food is fermenting in the gut. So you have bacterial fermentation, which produces gas, which produces bloating and discomfort as well. Other things are if you see things like rashes after exposure to certain foods, rashes on the chest or the arms, that's a sign of a intolerance, perhaps to gluten or casein or other food proteins as well. Also, their breath. If their breath is really, really bad, and if there's a lot of sulfurous odors to it, that's an indication that that there's a dysbiosis going on, and this could probably be helped by making sure that the food they eat is completely broken down and not fermenting in the gut or even in the stomach. So that's one way. You moms and dads kind of get clues as their kids develop and as they spend time with them, and they kind of get an idea. Also look at the foods they crave, what kind of foods they want to eat and they don't like to eat. They usually avoid foods that they've associated with some kind of pain or turmoil. Some of them like foods that may not necessarily be that great for them, but if incomplete breakdown of certain proteins like gluten, casein, and soy can produce peptides that are opiates, food opiates in nature, and that actually makes them feel good. It's a little bit of an opiate rush. It's why we have the term comfort foods. We all get that feeling. But they can be a little bit addicted to it. They crave those foods and they don't want to try anything else. You don't want your kid just eating macaroni and cheese 3 times a day, but sometimes that happens. If you get them on certain enzymes that, again, make sure that you're breaking down all the carbohydrates and stuff, sometimes that feeds back on their little brains, and the brain starts sending out signals that, hey, the food's all broken down. I've got all the nutrition out. Your blood sugar levels are high enough. You don't need that food. And then they start experimenting with things like, in my own experiences, I've had emails where parents said, hey, my kid's starting to want and eat salads of all things, instead of just craving mac and cheese or hamburgers all day. So that's encouraging that kids kind of know, they're kind of guided by what their gut tells them. So we can just have to be attuned to that and try not to project our own food prejudices and biases on our kids. They're responding basically by instinct. So that's one way you can address with a child.
And when choosing, is there a bottle that kind of, I'm a mom, so I'm like, is there a bottle that just does it all, just in case I don't know and I don't want to choose wrong?
Yeah. In my own experience as a scientist, I get real excited about having specific formulations that are targeted to certain issues. Because to me, that's the way to go. If you have if you've done enough research on your own, you understand, hey, carbs I really have a problem breaking down carbs, or say raw foods or veggies are an issue. Well, I can take a certain enzyme, and that 1 or 2 enzymes is all I need to help me break down those or tolerate those particular foods. If you're not sure, or maybe you have multiple food issues to deal with, then we go with instead of a targeted enzyme product, you go with what we call a broad spectrum, which is basically you just pump a lot of enzymes into a capsule, and different enzymes that'll take care of all the proteins, carbs, starches, fats, phenolic foods, all that time. So you're kind of addressing the whole problem. Now, you may have to take a larger capsule, or you may have to take more than one capsule, many capsules, to get all the enzymes at a certain level that will do the job for you.
Now, how do I figure out the dose? And what if the bottle is right for an adult on the, for dosing? But how do we determine that for a child?
Well, the good thing is that uh, enzymes dosing is really safe. You can't overdose on it. Um, Enzymes are simply food proteins themselves. They just have special characteristics that let them address other food proteins and carbs and fats. So you really just go by your own experience. Usually the recommended dosing you see on a bottle label is just that. It's just a suggestion. So again, it's a lot of trial and error and just plain experimentation. I usually say start low and work up till you find that dose that works for you particularly. But whereas one person, maybe 2 capsules will work at the beginning of a meal, another person may need 4, or maybe they just need half a capsule. It all depends. And the nice thing is that enzymes aren't really dosed by your age, body weight, whether you're a child or an adult. It's based on how much you eat. So, if a child usually eats a small amount, so maybe they don't eat as a dose as an adult does. Or if you're eating Thanksgiving dinner where you're really stuffing 4,000 or 5,000 calories in in yourself at one meal, you may
We
eat
don't
5
eat
or
that,
6.
do we?
Yeah. The idea is because these enzymes actually are acid stable and they start working in the stomach, that is, you want to prolong the contact time between the enzyme and the food you ate while it's in the stomach. And that gives you a 2 to 4 hour head start on the whole breakdown process of these foods. And which is much better for your digestive system, much easier on the GI tract.
Now, you touched a little bit on this, but how often should we take that? So we take it right before the meal? Should we take it during the meal? What if we forget? I mean, I know I have done this before where I'm eating, I get done, I'm like, oh, that was great. And I totally forgot my enzymes. So what happens then?
Yeah, I've gotten to the habit of just keeping the enzymes on the dinner table, or
Just like
wherever
the
you.
salt, pepper, enzymes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the best time is to take it right before you eat, just the beginning of the meal. Again, you want to prolong the time of contact between the enzyme. And remember, it's got a capsule, so you have to wait. You have to allow about 20 minutes for the capsule to dissolve. The enzyme powder has to dissolve in the liquids in the stomach. So all that's going to take about 30 minutes. So optimally, if you want to do it optimally, I'd say take it about half hour before. But don't get hung up on the timing issue. Just take it, even if you forget. Say it's been a half hour since you ate, and you just, oh man, I forgot to take the enzymes. Just go and take more, because again, the food's going to sit in your stomach after you eat for 2 to 3 hours, and you have that amount of time for the enzymes to work. And if the time is shorter, just take more. More enzyme means you got more enzymes in there working, and they can do more work in a shorter period of time. So don't get too wrapped up, just take it. But again, experimentation, the earlier in the meal or right prior to the meal is optimal. But don't freak out if if you're starting to roll. There's still time. I've done that myself. It's just like, oh man, how did I forget that? But it happens.
Now, how do we know if the product's working?
Good question. If you can't tell a difference, give it a few days to experiment. Most of the times when people tell me that, oh, enzymes don't really do anything for me, I find out that they're usually not taking enough, or they're not taking it at the right time. So again, make sure that you try a variety of doses and before you give up. But I'll be honest, there are some people that, enzymes may not do a darn thing. Maybe their particular intolerance is something that's not really remedied by the enzyme product. So for most people, they will notice. The nice thing is that the first time you take the enzyme, if it's at the right dose, you should notice. You should have less bloating, less gas. You won't feel as tired, or feel like you need to lay down after that meal or so. You'll notice changes in bowel habits since you are breaking down your food more thoroughly. there's less waste. So often the feces will be smaller, the stools will be less. Some people don't like that. Sometimes they need a nice big bowel movement to start the day. So don't worry, you can adjust. You can always cut back or on the dosing or the frequency, or add more fiber to your diet. But it's probably the best thing. Just get more veggies and fibrous material, and you'll have those nice fluffy poops we call them.
We talk about poop a lot in autism, don't we?
Yes, we do. I never thought we'd be there, but yeah, we are.
If you look back before you thought about what your profession was going to be, you never thought you'd be talking about poop all the time, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, we actually wanted to avoid going into that particular area.
Well, when you think about enzymes, you think about, gosh, how long before I see the results? You kind of already addressed that, though. If you don't see results right away, maybe you need to increase. You did say, though, that, that if you're not having as big of a poop as you might like, it's because the enzymes are doing their job. Is there other types of effects? Could it be that maybe if I know for me at least, if I don't take enzymes, especially during certain meals, right, I will feel super bloated. Like my stomach, and it's almost, I feel, at least with me, it's probably 20 minutes after I've eaten the meal, I will start to feel, maybe an hour, I'll just know. I'll just be like, oh man, I'll just know that I need to take enzymes. I usually do take extra because I'm like, darn it, I don't want to be in pain. And then there's some point, and I don't know when because I'm just not in pain. So I forgot about it. And I'm like, oh, must have worked. And it's usually a few hours later, I'm like, when did I stop feeling bloated? I don't even know. So I think it's important to, be aware of your feeling. I think that's definitely for me an effect is the bloating. I know a lot of people talk about bloating. Is there any other symptoms that they should be looking at? You talked a little bit about, rashes and such. Is there anything else?
Well, we've had that. There again, gluten comes to mind. Some people react and get these little bumps, prickly bumps on their arms and chest, and those type of things. If they're food related, if they're related to the gluten, but breaking down the gluten differently and making sure it's completely broken down, you can alleviate those kind of things. But you brought me to a interesting thought. I was an enzyme biochemist. I knew the science behind them. And it wasn't until later on that I got into dealing with enzyme supplements. And I was a little skeptical about the whole thing. And it wasn't until I was working for an enzyme manufacturer where I had access to all these different enzyme products and I started taking them myself just out of curiosity, that I realized that what I considered to be normal digestion really wasn't. I thought it was normal to be gassy and bloated and feel like, tired after a meal, but that's not the case. Later on in life, as you get older, you start having issues with heartburn or reflux and those type of things. You may have things like, like a few years ago, I had my gallbladder removed. So fatty foods are an issue, but there are enzymes called lipases that will help with that. So yeah, as long as I've kept up my enzyme regimen, I've not really had to adjust my dietary lifestyle very much. I'm kind of weak when it comes to food. I love ribeyes and my ice cream and pizza. And all those can be problematic, but most of the time you can not have those issues with the right enzyme product.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of families that are watching right now, we're constantly thinking about our kiddos. However, most of the time, and for all the families I've ever talked to at least, there's at least one, if not both family members, meaning the mom or the dad or maybe a sibling, also has digestive issues of some sort. And so I think it's important. I love I'm picturing it on your dining table, the salt, the pepper, the bottle of enzymes, where it just becomes natural. It's something that you just do. So I absolutely love that. One last question. For somebody who maybe can't swallow a capsule, I know people watching this right now, I know we're going to be doing some other Autism Hope libraries, and we guys tune in the next couple of months. You're going to see more of Dr. Devin Houston. However, right now you're sitting there going, okay, I want to do this. My kid's not going to swallow a capsule. What do I do?
There's a couple of things. Some companies have a flavored chewable tablet that they can give the kid, and lots of times the kids just think of them as a sweetheart or some kind of candy kind of thing. So that's one way to do it. Some enzymes are hard to mask as a tablet with flavors. So, but if a capsule is a problem, you can always open up the capsule carefully. You don't want to inhale the enzyme powder or get it in your eyes or such, because they are proteins and they can be potential allergens as well. But yeah, open up a capsule and mix it in with the favorite food, just anything, as long as it's not on the stove and being cooked, but mashed potatoes or peanut butters or jellies, that type of, you can just mix it in. One trick a lot of parents use is to get the enzymes in the school lunch. Just make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, open up the capsule, mix the enzyme with the jelly or the peanut butter, and it's fine. They're very stable, so they don't lose their activity very quickly. So they're good for hours, even at room temp. So that's one way, but food or drink, yeah, just mix it in there, and that's usually the best way to do it. But parents have gotten very creative with finding ways to get enzymes into these kids.
I used to take it and mix it in, and I'd add like a little bit of like juice that didn't have sugar, because we don't give my son sugar. And I would take a syringe and I would like suck it up, and I would just squirt it in his mouth. And then eventually I just took a straw and he like drank it. So, and then now he can swallow capsules, thankfully. And so, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely ways of being creative, and I know if you guys do have questions, I know you can contact Houston Enzymes. I know you guys have lots of little tips and tricks, and also ask other parents. Parents have been here way before us that are figuring out things that you're just like, why didn't I think of that, So we're always learning from each other. Now, how do people find out more about you and your website and the products that you carry?
Our website is HoustonEnzymes.com. It's Houston, like Houston, Texas. And there is a lot of good information, articles, techniques, as well as product descriptions. So we are very customer oriented. The customer comes first. My contact info is also there. So in case you have a question, just send it right to me. I'm the head honcho, and I'll be happy to answer any question that's brought my way.
Love it. Any final message you have for parents watching today?
No. Well, just that, Kristen, you're doing a great job with your organization. Parents just love you to death because you've been there for them. You know enzymes yourself. You've worked in the industry, so you're up there as well. But no, just keep on. I know right now while we're doing this, it's kind of a hard time for the country, and we kind of get a little stir crazy with all the stuff going on. But if we can reduce some stress, if we can make meal times a little bit easier and happier for the whole family, then then we're doing our job.
Well, that sounds so simple, but it is such a huge thing that you're doing, making mealtime simpler for those of us with children with autism. That's like huge. And so thank you, Dr. Houston, for everything that you've done and you continue to do. And you're just an amazing advocate for our families. And right now, for you guys to know, we are recording this. This is during COVID-19. We are quarantined. So if you watch this later on, that's what we're talking about, we're a little bit stir crazy. But, one thing is we're all eating still, and we still need to make sure we're digesting that food and we're feeling great. So, as I always say, never give up on hope, and just keep on remembering that, we keep learning, and there's more people out there rooting for us and our kids. They can feel better, because if they feel better, they can do better. So until next time, bye guys. Thanks.